Welcome back to the Explainer Detectives. Grab your coffee, pull up a chair, and get your notebooks ready, because today we're cracking open a profoundly baffling case file. We are looking at the ultimate puzzle, a woman who literally vanished into thin air from a hotel suite. As the lead detective on this theoretical case board today, my job, and your job with me, is to tear apart the physical constraints of the scene. We're going to look strictly at the facts, the clues left behind, and most importantly, the glaring logical inconsistencies that make this whole disappearance feel, well, completely impossible. So right off the bat, how does someone vanish from a completely sealed room? I mean, this is the core paradox we really need to unravel today. It defies common sense. Actually, scratch that. It completely defies physics. When we say sealed room, we aren't talking about a tricky latch or a misplaced key. No, we're talking about a heavily monitored, physically impenetrable box. So how does a human being just cease to exist inside of it? That is the riddle we're going to dissect piece by piece.
Okay, here is our case file index for the day. First, we'll establish the locked room paradox. Second, we'll take an inventory of the evidence. Third, we'll break down the logical inconsistencies. Fourth, we're analyzing the working theories. And finally, we will wrap up with the unforgettable twist.
All right, let's dive into part one, the locked room paradox. Our source material today gives us a classic locked room mystery. Now, if you're into detective work or crime analysis, you already know this is the holy grail of puzzles. It's when an event happens under circumstances that just seem mathematically and physically impossible. It forces us as investigators to look way beyond the obvious, mostly because the obvious answer, that someone simply opened the door and walked out, is completely off the table. Just look at the absolute finality of these security parameters. Seriously, think about this. The door is locked from the inside, the windows permanently sealed, and the security cameras lining the hallway show absolutely zero entry or exit. No one goes in, no one comes out. This isn't just some high-tech security system, it's a closed loop. As a detective, when you see a room locked from the inside with zero camera activity, your brain immediately says, okay, the subject must still be in the room. But she isn't. The room is totally empty. Which brings us to part two, inventory of the evidence. When they finally breached that sealed room, detectives uncovered four highly specific, really bizarre items. We have an untouched dinner, a stopped wristwatch, some cryptic notes scattered around, and unexplained fingerprints. Now, as an investigator, you live and die by the physical evidence, right? But as we'll see, these four items immediately start picking a fight with the facts of the locked room. It's like they're puzzle pieces from four entirely different boxes. The stopped watch gives us a frozen moment in time. The cryptic notes point to a disturbed state of mind or maybe a final message. But it's that dinner and those fingerprints that throw a massive wrench into our gears. Let's dig into part three, the logical inconsistencies. Okay, notice the stark contradiction we've got going on here. Why on earth would someone order room service, have it delivered, and then leave it completely untouched if they were in the middle of executing a meticulously planned, carefully timed disappearance? I mean, a planned escape requires precise timing, which that stopped wristwatch is practically mocking. And it requires intent. Ordering a meal implies you intend to stay, sit down, and eat. It's the super routine, domestic act that fundamentally clashes with the psychology of someone who's about to pull off the ultimate vanishing act. And then, bam, we hit our biggest paradox yet. Think about the intense friction here, guys. The cameras in the hallway and that deadbolt locked from the inside, they are loudly dictating that she was entirely alone in that suite. The sheer physical geometry of the room insists on absolute isolation, but those fingerprints scream otherwise. If she was alone, those prints simply shouldn't be there. And if someone else was in the room, how did they leave without popping up on the cameras? And even crazier, how did they lock a deadbolt from the inside on their way out? Let's try to make sense of this in part four, analyzing the working theories. Let's test the theories from the case file. Theory one, a secret escape. Sure, she wasn't seen by the cameras, but the logical flaw? The windows are permanently sealed shut. Theory two, an unknown intruder. This would totally explain the mysterious fingerprints found at the scene. But the fatal flaw here? The door was bolted from the inside. An intruder cannot lock an interior deadbolt once they're already standing out in the hallway. Okay, theory three, a planned disappearance. Maybe she orchestrated the untouched dinner as some elaborate decoy. But if that's the case,
why leave those cryptic notes? If you want to quietly disappear, you definitely don't leave a breadcrumb trail of confusing, ominous messages that are guaranteed to launch a massive police investigation.
You see the major headache this causes for an investigator? Every single theory hits a brick wall of logic when you factor in the physical constraints of the suite. The evidence says intruder, but the locks say impossible. The timeline suggests it was planned, but the clues look like a sudden interruption. We are totally trapped in this logical loop where the hard facts flat out refuse to align with the basic laws of physics. And that brings us to our final section, Part 5, the unforgettable twist. The source material promises us a twist that changes everything. And, in detective work, when absolutely none of the pieces fit the board, it usually means you're looking at the wrong board altogether. A twist that changes everything implies that one of our foundational assumptions, maybe the locks, the cameras, the timeline, or, hey, maybe even the identity of the woman herself, is entirely false.
So let's look at our case board one last time. The untouched food, the dead watch, the locked door, the invisible fingerprints. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this provocative thought. What if we've been asking the wrong question this entire time? What impossible clue did we completely overlook? What if that sealed room wasn't designed to keep an unknown intruder out, but was actually meticulously designed to keep something else in? Keep analyzing the evidence, detectives. I'll see you next time.